So I would say get a job, get in an industry. Nowadays, Gen Z is in this phase that they believe that if you're working as a job, it's almost become kind of a sin. Like, oh, you know what, that's not for me. But I'm of a different opinion. I would say if people have done something for ages and ages, they were not stupid. They have done it for a reason, right?
True.
In the dark web, they run all these child pornography sites and all that.
How do you got your first job? And giving something back to India on regarding the malware perspectives. Hey guys, welcome to the session on Coffee with Prabh. And today we have a special guest, Mr. Raashid Bhat, a malware reverse engineer and threat intel researcher known for its hands-on work on tracking the botnets, dissecting crimewares. And we're going to rewind the old days, of banking Trojans like Zeus, Citadel, and Qdar. Then follow the trails has morphed into the ransomware and modern info stealers. And the best thing is that Rashid will break down the two memorable cases, which include the Jesus picture hack and Pushdo incident in Ukraine. We're also going to cover about the reverse engineer mindsets, tools, and language, and what is the step-by-step path to start a career in malware research and how to handle the burnout. That's the most important thing which I've seen in the aspirants. So how to handle the burnout and constant learning, and also how to collaborate with the CERT, law enforcements, where ethics draw the line, and the current threat landscape with predictions what come next. So it's really honor for us to have him, and it's like a version 2.0 of Rashid because he was a well-known name in the industries. He do a lot of conferences in the past, and it is really honor for us that he come back to the scene and giving something back to India on regarding the malware perspectives, thought process, and all that. It is just a day for me to come that okay, yes, I have the guy who actually talk about how Trojans and everything works. So thanks, Rashid bhai. Thanks for taking out the time for this particular podcast.
Oh, that was great. Thank you, Prabh. Thank you for having me.
So Rashid bhai, before we basically start this session today about the history of Trojans and malware research and all that, because there's a lot of technical things we're going to discuss. As we discussed, it's a 1 hour podcast, but I will be a student. And the one thing about me is that I'm very bad in asking so many questions, and these questions are not behalf of me, it's a questions on behalf of my students. So I think today we're going to discuss about a lot of things about earlier of banking Trojans, Jesus malwares, Jesus picture hack, and push the incident, which is a very commodity malware. But before that, I want to know who is Rashid. What was the journey of Rashid? Because might be some of your points can inspire others.
Okay, so yeah, I mean, talking about my journey, I don't know where to begin from, but the last I remember, I was very young, and it was the days when, just the Wi-Fi system just started.
Oh.
And yeah, so opportunity, there's a famous saying that, it's the need that brings out the best, the creativity from you, right?
Hmm.
So back then it was difficult to get hands on knowledge, right? If you have to read about something, you have to go through books, and that's tedious. I mean, nowadays I feel like Gen Z are quite uh they are very lucky. They can just go on the internet and search for everything. I still remember as a kid, when I was interested in computers, I wanted to learn about computer programming, I had to go down to the bookstore and buy books. And that's so interesting, because all you had was one, you know, piece of book that you had to extract everything from it, right?
Hmm.
Compared to how it is today. If you're in doubt about some technology, or something is not working out, AI can solve it right away for you, right? Even I mean, they have turned completely the kind of rocket science into something that can be comprehended very easily, right?
Hmm.
So I remember like getting books, reading about programming, and luckily for me, I think I was set up for being it was written that I'll eventually be a malware analyst and a reverse engineer,
But you
because
decided in the school? that you become a malware research analyst and all that.
No, no, but I now when I look back in retrospect, the dots are getting connected, right?
Hmm.
So I remember the first programming language, mostly people would learn Basic or, Visual Basic or some other programming language that is not related with, that's not going to be eventually related with reverse engineering per se. So I don't know. Luckily, the first programming language that I took was C programming language.
Okay.
Back then it used to be, I mean, still
Hmm.
considered to be, among the learning curve is higher because it's directly connected with how it's a very low level language. Like you can literally translate in your head how it looks like when it gets compiled into binary as an assembly code, right? So that gave me a perspective how actually programs and how computer architecture works
Hmm.
instead of going through, abstraction. Like if I learned HTML, you don't need to know about memory. You don't need to know about, how deep down operating systems work. But if you're programming in C, you are puzzled with pointers and dereferences and crashes, right? And that kind of makes you question how deep down inside it works. So initially I was into programming, generally learning about computers. I was a geek back then in the school. And one fine day I remember I got this Wi-Fi router. I wanted to connect to internet, right? Because back then having a dial-up connection in India was like, a vanity. And,
True.
it's slow and all. I used to remember those dial-up days, right? And Wi-Fi being, you can connect it from, it's easy. There's no wiring and all. I get connected to the Wi-Fi system that's over there, and I get connected to the local area network. Now I don't have access because it's behind a gateway. I don't have access to, the outer world, the internet, because that's where the fun part is. And I remember I went to the cyber cafe and I was like, searched about hacking.
Okay.
And actually, few Google searches, back then you end up with Metasploit, Nessus, right? Those type of tools, Nmap, and I ended up downloading them. And to be kind of politically correct on your program, I ended up having an internet connection uh, by pressing some commands and running some commands on Metasploit, and eventually what happens with that. And that got me really curious. Like
Hmm.
when I read about buffer overflows, I'm like, I have been programming in C. How can just having a string or a variable that gets overflowed let me take control of a remote computer? That's how I got into cybersecurity. And then that's where my curiosity began. And eventually, I mean, and here I am today.
Wow. So,
Yeah.
uh, even in the recently, I did one video on the cyber part and all that. I got to know this point is, curiosity is basically play a very important role.
Yeah.
And I believe from your insight when you said about, Prabh, I was in a cafe and suddenly, I was thinking about how to hack Wi-Fi. I start searching everything and all that, and then I learn how to hack Wi-Fi.
Yes.
So I think curiosity and the deep learning or thought process is very important for to become a cyber expert. Correct me if I'm wrong. Whether it's a SOC, whether it's a pen testing, red teaming, bug bounty, malware research, and all that. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Absolutely. I mean, curiosity is
Mm,
the ingredient, but I
mm,
would go a little further by saying curiosity and just raw need. That is the fuel you need. I mean, if I just have curiosity and I don't have the need, and that need could be anything, like
mm,
that need for knowledge that time, which I wanted to connect to internet, right? In order to absorb.
mm,
Or it can be in other philosophical terms, I would say, how could you beat someone who is fighting for daily bread and butter when you have everything in life?
true,
Maybe you have curiosity, but the guy has curiosity and that thirst for the survival.
true.
If it's coupled with that, that's why I see people who, generally in any field, people who are, who come from not so privileged backgrounds or have that need, that's the ingredient, I believe.
Excellent,
Right.
excellent. And have you did any hacking course or who basically gave you sponsorship? Okay, do this hacking, you become crorepati in 1 year,
No,
or
absolutely
they
not.
or they made they you have you attended any weekend program to become a hacker?
Absolutely not, because people who are like OGs in this field who have been in it since the beginning, they kind of see. I mean, I might upset this by saying all of this right now that I don't believe in certifications
Hmm.
or formal education, university and all,
Hmm.
right? Because you see somebody who actually knows stuff, and
Hmm.
then if you show that guy what type of course structure they are
Hmm.
trying to teach you, it's
Hmm.
not meant for the industry. Rather, it's meant to make it easy for the student so that he ends up paying the money, right?
Excellent. Keep it
Yeah, like
simple. Yeah.
yeah, like
Hmm.
CEH and all. I'm nothing against those guys. I'm sorry, okay, but that's not gonna get you to do stuff what
Industry has.
industry or something that Mr. Robot does on the series, right?
Hmm.
So maybe that's gonna give you a piece of paper that you can
Hmm.
put on your LinkedIn, but
Hmm.
it's not gonna help you.
But when you got your first job, it was
Yeah.
based on your skill, or it is based on your qualification, or it is based on your certification, or it is based on your how do you got your first job?
Well, interestingly, I mean, I got my first job even way before completing my formal education, my course.
Hmm.
I knew from the very beginning, because once you're out of the system, as a kid, as I told you, I was interested in programming and computers in general,
Hmm.
and I was connected. Back then there was awkward, right? And they
Hmm.
had
Oh.
communities. Yeah, they had communities like C programming communities and Indian
Hmm.
communities.
Yeah. Yeah.
People from colleges, they end up having jobs and they discuss. So I was from the very beginning exposed to how the industry, and deep down inside I always had this gut feeling, no, whatever they're
Hmm.
teaching me
Hmm.
out there in the school, it's not going to be useful, because okay, they're teaching me physics, but I'm not, I don't see myself making rockets right with it. I
Hmm.
don't even see myself stepping stone in terms of building something that's going to be useful
Hmm.
to the world. So based on that, I knew all I needed was skills, because
Hmm.
that's what eventually they care about. Why would a million dollar, billion dollar company
Hmm.
that cares about products at the end of the day care about, where I have done my course or what
Hmm.
kind of, credentials I have? Rather, they would be more interested. But I understand back then it was very difficult to get a job without clearing a formal education. But
Hmm.
I was lucky. I met some really, really talented people who knew the value of, skills and what is required. So never been asked about my formal education. Never so far. Never. I don't think
But
now. Yeah.
but how you got the first job? I like definitely you upload your CV on the naukri.com with a cover letter. Hey, I'm Rashid and I'm looking for a change. Dear sir, please pledge me to give me a job on the.
Certainly,
And
I
what
have
was your
done.
first job?
Yeah, certainly. I have done something stupid like that, and it didn't work out. Thankfully, it didn't work out. So I
Uh,
remember I was in 2012. I decided, it's I time to make to start making money from the skills that you have,
hmm,
right?
hmm, hmm,
Survival, you need that, and you need to get into the industry. That was more important for me. So I remember I knew that if I just go with because back then the social media network for the hacker space wasn't how big it is today, right? There was no platform, right? So
hmm,
you knew you had to know somebody
hmm,
personally to,
hmm, hmm,
be at some platform. Well, back then the platforms were conferences. So I knew I can't just go with a resume. I know this stuff and they're going to hand me a job. Instead, I need to go and present something and show my skills somewhere. So I ended up joining, these Nalcon groups, got to interact with few people back then, the guys that are still OGs like Anand Shrivastava, Rahul
hmm,
Sasi, and, all these guys, they used to be there. And I remember I researched about it back then. I researched about a topic about ROP exploits, return-oriented programming exploits, and
hmm,
I presented at a conference in New Delhi known as Malcon,
hmm.
and that kind of gave me the head start, right?
Wow,
And over there were a few guys from the companies, and
excellent.
I was offered a job, and I was like,
Wow.
oh, I
So
was
that's a
like,
live example. It's not
yeah,
about always you get a job by the third party job portal. Sometimes you have to demonstrate your skills and you're just looking for the right platform, what Rashid got.
true.
Rashid was looking for an opportunity. And I believe, Rashid, there is no nothing to lose. If you failed, it is a lesson. and if you get a success, you get a job. And I think that's a very good thing at the early age. It's not easy for any fresher just simply go to the conference and do the talk and get the job from there. So what was the temperament during that time? Because see, I'm asking you from the point of view as a fresher.
Mhm.
Okay, the guy who is in a room learning cyber from last 1 year or 2 year or 6 months, and suddenly how you get this break, how you get this break of getting a first opportunity to speak on that stage. And the reason of asking, I'm sorry, guys, this is not the podcast we are going to do, but the way he started a session, I'm sure this is inspiring a lot of people. And I'm sure it will change the perspective of getting a job. I'm sorry, guys, we are not talking about the actual topic, but I want to discuss this part also because it's very important for the cyber aspirant. And I'm sorry, Rashid bhai, we have agreed to discuss
Absolutely.
something else,
To be honest,
but
I love this conversation more than the technical one now.
so
Maybe
so
I'm
how
going to
how
go.
how yeah. So how you crack that first opportunity to be on stage?
Well, I believe first of all you have to categorize yourself, like
Hmm.
what type of fire is inside of you.
Hmm.
Okay. So if you are still trying to learn,
Hmm.
or you are more focused towards gaining knowledge,
Hmm.
then success is gonna, I mean, job or anything like that, that's gonna happen automatically, right?
Hmm.
And moreover, it's the best time to be alive in such in such a setting, because there's so many platforms out there, right? You do something good, it's gonna go out there and people are going to notice. You don't have to worry about the delivery part, because back
Hmm.
then we were less fortunate. I had to worry about, oh, I need to travel down to New Delhi, take a flight and sit down in the conference. And those type of things are eradicated now, because now everything is on your fingertips and you just need to show up. You The plan of action and the delivery, the
Hmm.
logistics are going to take care of itself. So first decide, like, where you are in terms of the knowledge, the skills. Is it something that interests you? Is it something that makes you wake up every single morning and jump on your computer screen and be fascinated about it? If it is something like that, then jobs, success, it's gonna come. Now I'm sure, like, not everyone is madly, passionately interested in whatever they do, and that's
Hmm.
fine. Right?
Hmm.
That's fine. We have to be honest with ourselves. Somebody just wants to get in and see if cybersecurity is the type of career for me, and they want to break in.
Hmm.
Those type of people, I've seen those type of people, they get stuck in this limbo where they are struggling with, you know, they don't see, they don't get past beyond a particular phase where they kind of don't realize what's the next step in
Hmm.
order to get in, right?
True.
So they might do some Google searches, take these courses, and believe the dream they're selling. Get this course, pay
Understood.
$500 and get a job.
Hmm.
And once they complete that course, then they start wondering, and then they're like, stuck in that zone, that
Hmm.
where's my job now,
But
right?
Rashid bhai, if someone is watching this podcast, as you said, Prab, I took the flight, I
Mhm.
came to Delhi. Not everyone has the money to, it mean you had that privilege that you had a money. That's why you're able to travel to from Jammu and come to Delhi to do the conferences. The person who does not have a money. Okay.
Absolutely not.
So my because I'm sorry, I'm very blunt on this
No,
question
no,
because
this is a great question. It's
yeah,
gonna
so
it's gonna
so I
clear
don't want
clear
someone to
the
have this
air.
mindset that okay, yes, because Rashid had a money, that is why he got a first opportunity to present the things. I'm asking from that point of view that how he become a OG,
Okay, so
like how he able to crack the first opportunity as a stage performance. I know there's a lot of courses out there, but how you crack that deal?
yeah, so first let me clear the air around the fact that I had money. I did not. I was just like any other 20-year-old kid
uh,
who is surviving on some few thousand bucks
uh,
a month that
hmm,
comes from their parents.
hmm.
The flights and everything were paid by the conference.
But how you know that okay, this fresher we can able to sponsor his travel because he going to speak good on the conference. How you build the trust?
Yeah, because once you submit the abstract and you show them that they'll figure it out, because
Hmm.
obviously in the conferences there are guys who do the marketing thing and they want stuff that looks flashy, but always there will be somebody in the reviewer who would understand,
Hmm.
who notice that this is, something really technical. So it's all
Okay.
about, I mean, I'm sure there would be instances where your stuff is so good and it would still be rejected. That has happened to me.
Hmm.
But you try again and again, you're gonna land somewhere, right?
But how do you figure out the topic? Like, there's a lot of noise around today on cyber, malware, and all that. How did you figure out that this topic will definitely hit?
It's not something that I figured out, it's something that came to me. And now I'll
Wow.
understand what that means, right?
Hmm.
When you have a mindset where you're exploring and you let yourself float in the ocean of knowledge, creativity and stuff that excites you come to you automatically. Don't go looking for it. There's a famous saying, what's meant for you will find you. So if you are finding the stuff that you want to find, you're never gonna find that stuff.
Excellent.
But instead, if your curiosity is going to take you to places that are very, very interesting. So I still don't have a plan. When I wake up, I don't have the plan for the day. I don't know what I'm gonna, I
Hmm.
don't know what I'm looking for. But
Hmm.
I know one thing, the stuff that I am looking for is looking for me. So let it come to me.
But actually, as you see, like 10 years back or 15 years
Yeah.
back, how do you see the cyber industry and compare today? Rashid is basically came from a one hometown,
Yeah.
went to US, traveled multiple places. Oh my God, this guy is minting money. It means in cybersecurity, there's a huge money. So there is a one guy who looking at you like this.
Okay.
And second is who love his passion.
Hmm.
Okay. So what is the recommendation? Do we see the green side of the cyber because Rashid was traveling and he going to Spain, he going to this place and that place? It means cybersecurity is huge. That's why I want to come into this. Or this is something I'm passionate about that, and that's why I want to get into that. So what is the viewpoint on that? Because the reason of asking this question, because a lot of people will look at you. So right now, wherever you are, there is a surrounding.
Yeah.
Okay, this guy was always in the house, and today he's traveling.
Yeah.
You're definitely making a good money.
Yes.
So I want to, and the same happen with my viewers who watching this podcast. There will be some students and all that. They see the green side of the podcast. Ki, oh wow! Once we become a hacker, we get a sticker of DEF CON and all that on the laptop. We have a hoodies and all that, whatever. So how do you see this perspective when it comes to passion? That is the most important priority, or when it comes to price or money, that is a priority. That how we can be motivated.
Yeah. So I used to be this guy who deeply believed in that, the fact that the price does not matter. What matters is your passion, right?
Hmm.
And I was right at this, but now I realize partly I was wrong because there are
Oh.
some subconscious elements inside of you. That's how the human psychology, that's how this humans work. Humans are basically incentive-based animals, right?
Hmm.
So if there is no prize, if there's no dessert at the end of the meal, or if there's no celebration at the end of a football match,
You won't be feel
then
happy.
trust me, nobody's gonna play the game. So the money, the prize, the incentive that you get in the career are very, very important. If you eradicate those, I don't think those that there would be so much fun in it. But
Hmm.
that should not be something that is on the top of your conscious when you're trying to approach the field.
Hmm.
The price and everything, yes, subconsciously, you, me, everybody knows that, right? I mean, at the end of the day, everything is a transaction. You
Hmm.
wouldn't be doing this podcast with me if it's not beneficial for both of us, or if it's not beneficial to your viewers, because at the end, it's not a zero-sum game. It's something that you add, right? So I would say when you are trying to approach your career, deep down in your subconscious, yes, you should keep this thing. And like, it's also for the price. It's going to afford, because why would you want to work on something if it doesn't benefit you in your life, right? But I would say 80-90% of your conscious efforts should go into, learning. And as I said, what's meant for you will come. If you have the skills, if you have the knowledge, the prize, the dessert is going to come. Certainly.
Excellent. And 12, 13 years back, when you're talking cyber, how did you decided, okay, I will do research on malware or I will be that? Because I think uh, it was not that mature market about
Absolutely.
malware and all that. People are only talking bug bounty and everything. So how did you figure out, one late night you were sleeping and something comes in your dream that, okay, yes, you have to become malware researcher. So how did you figure out that?
Well, for me, it was very interesting because as I was going deeper and deeper, because I was driven by the knowledge aspect of it. I mean, back then I would have, to be honest, I would have done it even if that didn't pay me for a
Hmm.
while, obviously,
Hmm.
until I'm getting, it becomes a necessity. Look, oh, I'm out of money. I need some salary now.
Hmm.
But as I was driven more by the pursuit of knowledge, it opened up the doors for me into fields that are niche, like you mentioned, reverse engineering and malware. So everybody, if you go with the first thought, if you go with the herd mentality, oh, what is cybersecurity? Back then you open it's bug bounty, XSS, and all this vandalism stuff, right?
True.
That didn't interest me because I was driven by the challenge and the pursuit of knowledge in it. So once you open those doors, it will lead you to stuff that is niche and that is unique and give you a very interesting and very competitive advantage in the field itself.
Agree.
So in 2010, 2009, I mean, nobody knew about reverse engineering. It was something. It was almost I remember when I used to talk about it, was almost considered as a some form of black magic, like, oh, what is that? What are debuggers? Well, what is this assembly language? Because everything was abstracted in higher level languages, right?
True.
And uh, and the lack of tools as well. I mean, right now we have so many tools, but can you imagine back then running those OG tools, which like Ollie debug, soft ice, text-based tools? Nowadays you have, like, you can even use ChatGPT to decompile some binary. But back then, setting up tools was in itself a challenge, and you had to know exactly what's happening behind the scenes in that
True.
tool. But trust me, man. I mean, I know the revolution, the Gen Z age of AI is very, very useful, and I do use it as well. But learning stuff that way makes an imprint in your mind.
Agree. And the
Yeah,
reason of asking this question is because, you should have that insights on that area and all that. But
yeah,
thanks, Rashid Bhai, to share your journey about cyber. Now, I want to discuss about the agenda of today. The reason of asking these all questions because people should know,
absolutely.
what from we kept coming from. So Rashid Bhai, we talking about lot of Trojans and all that. So let's deep dive into the early era of banking Trojans. Okay,
Yeah.
where we're talking about this Zeus and Citadel. Can you just share the brief history about that and what is the perspective of this today podcast?
Okay, so I certainly, this is going to be an interesting technical discussion for me, because it would give some form of, to your viewers, like
Yeah.
how cybersecurity in the field of malware analysis has evolved. Because nowadays, if you try to jump into malware analysis, you see the current affairs. You don't see the history is opaque. Is very, very opaque in terms of cybersecurity. We don't know how we got here, right? We
True.
have all the stealers, but how did we get here? So that's the discussion I want to have today for the technical part of it. So I remember, it was 2007, 2006, 2008. There used to be this it used to be called as king of banking Trojans, king of Trojans. There
Oh,
used to
okay.
be only one, that was Zeus, right? So
Okay.
Zeus comes from Greek mythology. It's the god of in the Greek mythology. So the name kind of correlates with how good it was and how complex and how sophisticated the Trojan was. And even today, I see the Trojans as of now. The shift, there's a perspective shift. They don't care about being caught or making it complex. Rather, nowadays they're like, yeah, even
Go ahead.
yeah, exactly. Even somebody with no knowledge of, no deep knowledge of cybersecurity would figure, oh yeah, that's a virus, right? But they are
Hmm.
aiming at masses right now. Back then, it wasn't. It was more targeted, more sophisticated, more Russian style themes, right? So this Trojans, yes. Let's get back to the topic. It was the king of banking Trojans. So back then, banking was the thing. That's how they used to monetize from it, right?
Hmm.
So instead of attacking an entity as ransomwares do today, they would go after, common people like you and me.
Hmm.
And if you attack, let's say this was the philosophy of the business. If I'm able to hack or infect 1 million people, I take $1 from each, I get 1 million. So it was more crowd funded kind of stealing.
Okay.
So that's why it was complex, because you had to, in order to build such a Trojan that deals with the complexity of not something that is ubiquitous, right? Because
True.
in an organization, you run, let's say, 10 different type of softwares along the spectrum of organizations, right? You'll have
True.
Office 365, you have some Salesforce, et cetera, right?
Hmm.
But you and me, you are living in Brazil and somebody is living in Seoul, South Korea, would have different type of banks.
True.
So how I'm gonna build something that's going to be ubiquitous around this thing that would let me steal credentials from them? And that's where Zeus was very, very powerful. So it actually invented the idea of form grabbing. So there, back then, there was this thing known as form grabbing. So what malware like Zeus would do, it would inject inside processes like Firefox, Internet Explorer, and go deep down into the JavaScript core, DLL.
Okay.
And as you visit your banking site, it would inject some of the parameters there that would help them. As you enter the password, the form data is sent to the command and control server as well.
Hmm.
So it invented that, the stuff that we talk about nowadays, API hooking and injection and all that. ZS was one of the Trojans that implemented it in such a beautiful way. And that's why it used to be that, Mount Rushmore, to be knowing, deep down inside how it works and to have reverse engineered such a mammoth. Yeah. So that was the beginning of the ZS banking Trojan. And from there onwards, it after the leak, there was in 2008, I remember there was their source code got leaked. And once it got leaked, some branches came out from people took that source code and compiled their own versions and made further more versions from ZS Trojan. And that eventually gave birth to many different Trojans, banking Trojans that were out there for quite some time until 2016, 17, I remember.
Oh. And what was
Yeah.
the impact of all this when this banking Trojans has basically impacted and all that? What was the overall impact of these Trojans?
The impact was brutal because
Hmm.
tracking such things was difficult,
Hmm.
and eradicating such things were difficult because the entity was involved, the individual entity, your client, the bank's client was involved. So banks are
Hmm.
very, back then it was a hot topic for the banks too. I remember banks paying millions and millions of dollars to their, cybersecurity
Hmm.
company
Hmm.
in order to just have intelligence around it. That was actually the first company that I worked for. It was known
Hmm.
as Eyesight Partners,
Hmm.
and we used to deal with cyber threat intelligence. So we would provide intelligence around how these banking Trojans nowadays, they are trying to attack your infrastructure, but at the end, the bait is your user, right?
Hmm.
So let's say the infrastructure or the technology stack on which the banking transactions work, these people, they knew how it works, right? How to inject in between. And this type of information, this type of, or what new injects they are trying to use was very, very useful for the banks.
Hmm.
And for a while, banks worked with cybersecurity companies in order to, it was a cat and mouse game. We changed something, they changed something. But eventually there was a silver bullet. It
Hmm.
wasn't, it was to change the whole ecosystem of the banking transactions itself, like OTPs, then the OTPs and MFAs got famous. And it only broke that chain for banking Trojans to seamlessly or easily kind of hack your credentials, right?
Oh.
So that was eventually declared, but initially the impact was huge. Impact was huge. There used to be, you know, millions of files, the spam and the volume of the infections were very. I still remember I used to sinkhole some of the servers,
Hmm.
and to be honest, the normal ones we would find like uh, loads and loads of like tens and thousands of infections. Just imagine, even if you take few dollars, like nowadays you see on a credit card statement like $10 taken, and you don't even realize, you don't
Salami
even
attack, something like
yeah,
that.
you don't even care, where, I mean, $200 to some, online payment, you don't you're not going to go down to the bank.
True.
But if you combine, if you take the holistic of all of that all together, for 400,000 people, that's a lot of money. So a lot
True.
of money taken from the banks. You might not care, but at the end, the total sum is huge.
And
So
and
yeah,
but how do you hunt for these Trojans and all? Because backdates, there's no buzzword around uh, darknet, dark web. Not everyone is aware about that. So what was your perspective about this one? Uh, like, how do you hunt those Trojans and malware during back time? And do you recommend any websites which people can follow apart from Virus Total and all that?
well, back then we used to have our own traps, spam
Okay.
traps. We
Hmm.
had built technology
Hmm.
to set up spam traps and because again, it was when you're working in cybersecurity, you don't have to just think along the lines of, you have to sometimes think out of the box, think as an adversary, right?
True.
So you're not gonna have some silver bullet tools that let you put some queries in and wish list is that it would print out all the binaries for you. No, you have to go think just along the lines as the attacker does and follow the footprints and put on some traps, right?
True.
So we had developed a very advanced technology in spam hunting,
Hmm.
and then you go ahead and kind of advertise it in the same place where they're trying to sell the Trojans, right? So
Okay.
you become part of the, not part of the, but somewhere you inject yourself in the part of the delivery system, and that's where you get the advantage. So if you ask me if there is a silver bullet or there's one way to do it, absolutely not. But there are many ways to do it, and those require not just thinking along the technological lines, but
Hmm.
sometimes along uh, as a social game. You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
Understood. And
Yes.
and that's why, when you're talking about the requirement of this context and everything, the reason of I asking this question is because nowadays also a lot of peoples are there who basically work on the SOC area and all that, or L1, L2. So they
Yeah.
also get this kind of insight. That's the reason I ask. And coming back to this part is, can you share me some notable examples and technique used, including, ZS and game over ZS and radars and all that? So can you just share insight on that area, how this
Sure.
basically works?
So after, as I told you, the leak got famous, and then
Hmm.
there was this another avatar of the ZS Trojan. It was known as Game Over Zeus.
Game over ZS. Okay.
Yes. So the original weakness in ZS Banking Trojan was that it was centralized. What I mean by centralized is the fact that okay, your infections are decentralized because they are spread all across the world, but there is a single point of failure because all of them are pinging back to one command and control server,
True.
right? And if you nuke that, if you bring it down or sinkhole it, it's done, right? For the efforts put by the criminal, which are a lot. Let's say you are infecting tens and millions of computers, and then you have the single point of failure. It's a stupid way to go about it. So they wanted
True.
to innovate that, right?
True.
That's where, back then, Bitcoin and these, peer-to-peer networks were getting. You still remember downloading stuff from, LimeWare, right? If you're of those days. So peer-to-peer was the thing, right? It was decentralized. So everything, there was resource sharing. And there was no single point of failure. That's what the peer-to-peer version of ZS Banking Trojan Game Over ZS came up. And it was very difficult to take down, right?
True.
Because you can take down one. So the command and control servers in such a Trojan game over ZS were known as nodes. So you take
Hmm.
down one, there'll be 100 more, and those 100 more are the ones who are actually infections. So there's a layer, there's a hierarchy there. So they got top level, tier 2, tier 3. So it's
Hmm.
hidden behind multiple layers. I take down one command and control, that might be your infection, and you're an innocent pawn in that game. So how would that help? So it was very, very difficult.
Hmm.
And I remember back then there were some researchers from CrowdStrike that actually had figured out a vulnerability in the protocol implementation of this GameOver Zeus that allowed them to go deep down inside and extrapolate that weakness to figure out all the infections, to kind of enumerate the whole network, right?
Okay.
Because back then, how we used to do it, we would have a server, we'd figure out a command and control server, we'll nuke it down because we had contacts with the cert or the hosting provider behind it, right?
True.
They
True.
apply. And then once you do sinkhole, you get the number of connections. That's how you figure out how many people are infected. Like, what's the scale of this attack? Now,
True.
that would be very difficult when it's decentralized. You don't know. And then it again being something that's not sold out in the market, in the underground market, it's run by a particular group or maybe two. So every they own the whole they own the whole cartel of
Hmm.
actions, right? And it happened in DEF CON on Black Hat. They on the live on the stage, they were able to enumerate the whole network, and based on an exploit, they brought it down live. The decentralized GameOver Zeus. So, and there were like millions and millions of infections, as I remember from it was back then in 2012 or 13. And yeah, I mean, the stuff back then was more like, James Bond in flesh. Nowadays,
Hmm.
it's more brutal. Like, go
Yeah.
ahead, you do something, it's done. But back then, it was more of you had to be James Bond in flesh too, and then the outcome was very interesting. So, going back to the topic of how the technology stack, or how they deep down they work. So that was one of the interesting part in GameOver Zeus.
Hmm.
And then as the weaknesses were explored and everything else, monetization got difficult because of the security implementations by banks themselves. They figured out the silver bullet for this problem. Now, what's left for the ZS guys, right? Now imagine you have you have a territory. You
Hmm.
have a territory that you have taken over.
Hmm.
Right? You have computers that are zombified, but you are not able to monetize from them. You got two options: figure out a way to monetize them, or just let them be. That would be a defeatist attitude. But instead, another blow that happened back then, and it was very, very interesting and very innovative. They're like, now we're not going to monetize from their stealing their credentials. Let's do a thing. Let's invent a technology known as ransomware and
Oh,
push
okay.
ransomware to all the infections.
So the origin is from there only, or it
Yes,
was there?
yes.
Okay. Okay.
CryptoLocker.
Hmm.
CryptoLocker
Hmm.
was because at the end they were not able to monetize. So why not just monetize? So they
Hmm.
pushed CryptoLocker everywhere. So it's like before we used to steal it from your banks. Now we're gonna take your computer to ransom and take money when you're gonna do it on your own. And that caused havoc back then. And that was the beginning of ransomware things, right?
Hmm. So I was in impression it was something coming from other side, but yes, it was really interesting to be frank.
I mean, the groups were very small back then. Like, they knew each other, right? It was in discussions because how would you tell me how would a ransomware be profitable if you haven't hacked the world, right? Because
Hmm.
back then they didn't have this idea of attacking organizations.
True.
Now, ransomware, they don't target you, they don't target me. They know they want to go for the big fish. They're like, okay, instead, if we target organizations, we get tens of millions, and they have that money, and they're gonna give it away. Sure,
Hmm.
Prabh and Rashid might give $100. That's it. We're not gonna waste so much time and effort on them, right? Yeah.
True. And the reason I asked this question is, so what is a take for us from this particular incident? What is a take? What do you think? What is the insight we get from this perspective
The
from this
the
incident? Yeah.
the insight is brief that I have. It is that they will always evolve. Okay?
Hmm.
They will always know. We might think this is the end. We have, we remember back then during 2000, late 2000, 2000s, uh, not Microsoft, the computer, well, the security world developed this idea of ASLR, right? and DEP address space. That was like, oh yeah, this is the end of exploits. No more buffer overflow, sir. That's
Hmm.
it. And that gave birth to information leaks, address leaks, and they were able to bypass it. That gave birth to application sandboxing, which was implemented by Google Chrome and Adobe PDF Reader in the beginning,
Hmm.
because those were the things that were. And eventually that gave birth to sandbox escapes. So if you think you are over because we have reached to the pinnacle and we have solved the issue, no, you have not. You have just made the race more interesting. And if they think, they can always use a particular technique to attack you, the attackers are also wrong because there would be somebody would develop some defenses around it. So there's no true heaven here. There's
Hmm.
it's the journey. So be prepared for the journey. Don't look for the destination. That's what I'm saying.
And what about this second incident, which is talking about this Pushdo incident in the where they disrupt the interconnectivity in Ukraine? Can you just share me the step by step, the timeline of the process?
Yeah, back then we used to deal with APTs.
Mm-hmm.
Again, uh, with the emergence of companies like Wupin and exploit brokers, governments realized, you know what, there's a need for cyber warfare. It can be done because infrastructure is behind and everything is getting digitalized. So that was my first time where I actually encountered something that is crimeware or commodity malware being used in political scenarios.
It's more
So
like a malware as a service or ransomware as a
service
service.
or what they sell, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
300, $400 in the underground forums. Now, I saw that, Pushdo malware because we used to track it down
Hmm.
uh, and reverse engineer the protocol and, develop emulators around it to go into the command and control server, see what's being supplied.
Hmm.
That's the threat intelligence being deployed that time. So I saw it's trying to, because usually it's a downloader, right? It's a downloader Trojan. It
True.
downloads other Trojans, which are known, right?
True.
Now, one fine day, I am monitoring it. I observe a very weird looking payload.
True.
At that time, this, Russia-Ukraine thing has been going forever. It was, but back then I didn't know the political backdrop of it. Otherwise, it would have been way more interesting for me.
Hmm.
But
Hmm.
I knew something was happening, right? And I see this weird looking unique payload. It's very small at the same because generally malwares, they'll be like 40, 50, 60, 70 KB kilobytes, right? Because that's what you get when you compile something which is written in,
Hmm.
programming languages with some libraries included. I see a payload that's just 10 kilobytes. I'm like, what the hell is this? Like, how it's like maybe there's a bug on my code and or on their supply. So as I go in, I drop it in immunity, sorry, disassembler. I see it's a valid binary and it
Hmm.
does something. And as I go in, it's small, right? Obviously, it's small and being a small binary, it's easy to reverse and not easy, but then quickly you can reverse engineer it because you only have to reverse engineer a few functions.
True.
Quickly, I was able to figure out that it doesn't go and do persistence, saves itself in, it doesn't care about that. It doesn't copy itself in run folder or it doesn't connect any command and control server. It doesn't copy any files. It's not infecting any other binaries, but rather it's doing something very simple.
Hmm.
It is messing up with your internet connection. So it's kind of not letting you visit anything that is Ukrainian. That is what it's doing.
Okay.
So So there were some APIs, some Windows APIs, by which you can filter out stuff. So it was, I don't remember precisely because it happened a decade ago, but that was the analysis of it. And it was very interesting for me to see that, crime were being used in APT-like scenarios. So
Hmm.
yeah, that it changed my perspective about it's not just about somebody trying to just steal your money. It's political too.
Oh. And what is this is the um what is the sequence of the attack? Like, as you know that the network is not something easy to break and all that. So what was the sequence of the attack they consider, how they basically started and how they target the end to end all the stuff?
So again, it was a very innovative attack in terms of attacking the country's infrastructure.
Hmm.
Infrastructure can be divided in two parts. It could be infrastructure run by the government, which are machines, or people can also be infrastructure. Now, if you disrupt access to the people, you are by default disrupting infrastructure. So let's say you have a bus system wherever you live. Sure, buses are working, but the ticket system is not, or you're not being able to the tickets are not being handed over to you, the
True.
access to buying tickets. So it renders the bus system, completely not usable. So instead of attacking, infrastructure, which might be difficult, which again, I mean, that would be the ultimate goal, but you attack the users of the infrastructure. Again, you're attacking the country's infrastructure, right?
True. That's really strange. And how they countermeasure that, how they overcome that, and what is the lesson learned from this particular incident?
In terms of how they recovered, I have no idea because I mean, God bless them, Ukrainians must have done something about it,
Yeah.
right?
Because if you
And
see the history of this entire process, Russia, Ukraine conflict and all that, I was doing some deep analysis on that, and next month I'm releasing a video of that, how the US has used Ukraine ground to build the cyber defense centers, and how the US has used how the US has supported the Ukraine to protect against the cyber attack, which has happened in 2021 and 22. So I'm
yes,
planning to release the entire case study on that next month, where
yeah,
how they use it's a very big stuff. You're giving your land to other country
hmm,
to set up the cyber defense center,
yeah.
and it's not something easy to do that. So I think the history is always there. The backhand support of US government always there to support the Ukraine to counter any attack against Russia or any other neighbor nations who targeting a Ukraine.
I think it's not just when we look at it through this angle, like
Hmm.
US is coming as a Batman to save Ukraine. There's
Hmm.
mutual benefit there, right? Even
True.
for United States, because once you're involved in a cyber warfare in a foreign country, and
Hmm.
the the perpetrator happens to be somebody who is not an ally, but somebody you're up against, Russia,
True.
right?
True.
It's a kind of a cyber defense exercise for a country like US because you get to experience the weaponry system of the other country. At the same time, you get to exercise, okay, I'm gonna, see how I can build the defenses around. So uh, I mean, this is a political, how they deal with and how what benefits they get from it. Now the
Uh,
question, like, they built? Certainly, they have built. Have they built just to save Ukraine? Absolutely not.
hmm.
They have built it to save, at the same time, get a feel of what the other, Otherwise, it's a swing in the dark, right? If the cyber weapons are never used, how would you figure out, what the capabilities are?
Agree.
Yes.
And with continuation of the questions and all that, it now it's time for me to understand your thought process. If someone want to become a reverse engineer
Yeah.
or you want to become a experience and all that, so which programming language he should learn for malware analysis and why?
Yeah.
Because and how do you see the career aspect of malware analysis?
Okay, great. So again, I still carry this belief that you need to learn a low-level programming language that is more related to how your compiled binary would look on the machine level. So
Hmm.
the closest we have ever gone is C, right?
Hmm.
So if you're trying to become again, like the proof is in the pudding. Don't take my
Hmm.
word for it, but if you use IDA and you press the decompiler, it doesn't decompile in Python. It
True.
decompiles in C
True.
because as close as it can get, right?
Hmm.
So, yeah, C is something you have to learn, you must
Hmm.
learn. And along the way, it's going to teach you how operating systems work because
Hmm.
it's very raw. It's like there are no classes, there are no abstractions. It is raw. You can show me a C code right away and I'll tell you how it gets compiled. That's how
Hmm.
raw is. And that's why it's very powerful, right?
Hmm.
Because there are no abstractions, there are no, it's not wrapped around libraries and all. If you ask me this question, if I'm, okay, fine. Go programming language is also compiled. So if I learn Go, would I become a malware? Absolutely not.
No.
Absolutely not. Because again, there's abstraction. Would I learn C++? And no, absolutely not. Maybe it's better than Go in order to learn, reverse engineering. But I would say learn C. And once you learn C programming language, you have to have this mindset that if I'm writing this program, you have to deep down inside, you have to think that how exactly it would be translated in assembly. And once you do that, you also invariably get better at learning C,
Agree.
right? You get better at learning C. And I would say also try to, this is something that you don't need to practice a lot, but try to code for a while, try to code in assembly as well
Hmm.
in order to know, about, the various working and, various intricacies in compilation of or translation or linkage of assembly languages, assembly programs.
Okay. So if we make it short and
Mm.
crisp, C is should be a foundation.
C should be the foundation. Windows internal should be the foundation. Learning about binary formats should be the foundation. Learning about disassemblers and learning about one debugger should be the foundation.
Excellent. And can we learn this free of cost? Do we have any resources? Do you recommend any resources they can refer, or do you recommend any training program?
I don't recommend any
And how
training
did you learn? Yeah.
because of my personal bias, but certainly there are loads and loads of documents available
Hmm.
online that one can learn from. There are great books available
Hmm.
online. There is again there's ChatGPT online. You
Hmm.
can, and then the most important and the best way to learn, there is a compiler and there is a virtual machine available
Hmm.
that you can test
And from
yourself.
where we can download the malwares and all that if they want to test some malwares and all that?
Sure, there are some free repositories
Hmm.
online. There is some of them are run by these groups on Twitter, which are quite famous.
Hmm.
There is Virus Total as well, where you can
Hmm.
down there sometimes, and most of the times people do share on Twitter. You can just
Okay.
ask anyone, and they'll download it for you. But as of now, finding malware samples is no big deal if you want to. But I would not recommend if you want to become a malware. I would not recommend directly downloading binaries and analyzing malware because there's a learning curve. There is some place to reach before you start. Because if you're starting off by analyzing malware, it's going to be a swing in the dark. You're not going to understand anything. First, you need to know the foundation, which I said that you need to learn C. You need to learn how programs are compiled and how binaries work. You need to learn about the executable formats like
Hmm.
executable, Linux ELF, and then slowly build up by analyzing easy to analyze malwares. Like you can analyze small downloaders. You can analyze, you don't have to jump directly to, big banking Trojans and complex Trojans like, bootkits and all. But try to, again, for becoming a malware analyst, learning how to unpack is very important because everything that comes malicious is packed because they want to hide the original implementation, right? So
Hmm.
they hide it behind complex packers. So understanding how to unpack, how to recover imports is a vital process because that solves the whole equation. Uh, uh, Even if, for example, if when you try to learn how to reverse engineer electronics, you don't just go and look at the electronics you're trying to reverse engineer on top of on the surface level. You go, you unsolder all of them, you take out the chips, and then you take pictures, right?
Understood.
Similarly, you unpack malware, you remove the noise, the noise on top of it, and you reveal the basic structure of it, how it is. And then
Hmm.
from there on, you can use stuff like IDA scripting to make it more easier for you. You can use variable renaming, structure renaming. Essentially, reverse engineering malware is about, reducing the equation. You
Okay.
remember in your high school you had that mathematical equation, and they asked you to, simplify it, right? You
Hmm.
simplify and then eventually you bring it to up an appearance that gets easier to solve. That
Excellent.
is the whole point. That is the whole point. So if imports are not visible in your malware, you write scripts to make the imports visible. If strings are encoded, you write the script to decode the strings. And once you
Hmm.
have it, then the job is just to look at the disassembly and you'll understand the structure easily. And that's my way of doing it.
Wow. And what is the skills are worth prior? Sorry, before that, I want to understand one thing is what is the general thought process behind reverse binaries?
Yeah, again, as I said, I would reiterate it again. It is about solving the equation. It's about
Understood.
making it as less complex as possible. So
Keep it simple.
yeah, the great saying that if I had 12 hours to chop down a tree, I would spend 11 or 10 hours, sharpening the axe. And
Eggs.
exactly that's how I work. I don't just load binaries in debuggers and disassemblers to start from the very beginning. I
Hmm.
first try to understand how I can strip off something that is preventing me from analyzing it easily, right?
Hmm.
So I would spend, if I'm working on a binary for 4 hours, 3 hours, and I'm being honest, about 3 hours I'd spend trying to reduce the equation. And
Okay.
then it's a walk in the park. It's a cakewalk. Like, you just look at, you can bring it down to such a level that you can decompile it and you get the originals, almost the original source code back.
Excellent. That's a very that's a very good point you said about you should spend time on the research or you should spend time on improving your skills and all that. And my next question is around that area only. What are the skills are worth you prioritizing and what can be safely ignored in the early stages when you working on doing the malware research and all that?
I think the stuff that you should, let me rephrase the question, the stuff that you should mostly focus on and stuff that you should not spend a lot of energy in. Is that what you are trying to ask?
Yep. Look, how do you prioritize, like this is we can do or this is we can do later and all that. So example, like if you take a reference of, these are skill sets are required. Okay, so I worth prioritizing this first and then I will ignore later, or what? How do we need to prioritize our skill sets to become a malware research analyst? Yeah.
Okay. Again, it depends upon what type of, there can be types of malware analysts, like levels in terms of how deep you want to go, right? If you want to be, I would rather change the terminology first, right? There would be malware analysts, there would be malware reverse engineers,
Hmm.
okay? A SOC guy who has access to any .run or VMray or these online sandboxes can also be categorized as malware analyst because you're trying to analyze using these tools.
True.
Now, if you want to become a malware analyst, just the analyst, you want to figure out whether this file is a malware or not. I want to know where it connects to command and control server, etc., etc. Sure, then you have to have diversified skills and you need to be very good at using different type of tools that make it easy for you. Not necessarily you need to know the implementation or the behind the scenes of working it deep down, right? You might need to know how to take strings of a malware. You might need to know how to unpack small packers like UPX, or you might need to know how to build up a VM that is anti VM friendly, that undetectable, and you need to know various tools, right?
True.
But then there are people who are malware reverse engineers who are given a particular task. I need to figure out the depths, like how does this work, right? So for that, you have to be very specific and very focused, and you kind of have to, again, it's a double-edged sword. You have to over specialize.
Hmm.
There's no other way. Okay? You have to over specialize in Windows internals, you have to over specialize in operating system internals, you have to over specialize in understanding of debuggers, disassemblers, and general internals of operating system.
True.
Now, over there, that's what you have to prioritize. You cannot prioritize learning about databases there, or if the question is where should I focus most of my time, right? So I guess in such a case, if you want to be a malware reverse engineer, you have to over specialize in that area.
Okay. So, and continuation of this question, as you said about, research is something is your continuous process, and
Yeah.
that should not have a burnout and everything, right?
That should not have a burnout. Yes, burnout, again, we don't understand the word properly, I guess. Burnout is, I it's something that happens to you when you have worked on something which you
You don't
don't
like
like
it.
work.
Uh,
Yeah, for a long time, that's burnout. I've been working
like
since
I
past.
love biryani. I will not be burnout after eating biryani.
Absolutely. I have been dealing with computers since I was this young.
Mm.
I don't think I have a burnout, but if I
That's why we
stop
say
you,
when you're full of passions, when
yeah,
you're passionate about something, then there's no definition of burnout there.
yeah. I mean, if I every day, if I'm not reading, learning, researching, I think I rather go crazy than the
Uh,
burnout itself, right? So burnout is for those people who are not uh, uh, kind of really passionate about it.
hmm,
But I understand, yes, as we grow, the passion kind of fades. Like I don't honestly, I mean, the intensity at which I was doing it when I was 15 years old, I would stop eating and everything else and be completely focused. Nowadays, I'm more conscious, right?
hmm,
So a small burnout, small, a minor burnout can happen. And I think to tackle that, it's very important to have uh, to kind of not too much over specialize, have something
hmm.
else that you can partly do in order to keep it interesting. Uh, Other than that, I mean, yeah, but we all know what you guys can do. We guys can do, have a life outside computers, certainly. But if you want to, in terms of staying in the computer world, in the cybersecurity world, I guess learning about something. I mean, it would be great if I'm reverse engineering for 6 hours a day, and then 1 more hour I'm about to work. I work for 1 more hour. I learn HTML. That would be more satisfying and therapeutic. You understand what I'm saying,
Agree,
right?
agree.
So that's how you can save yourself from burnouts, I would say.
That's great, Rashid bhai. I'm asking so many questions, and guys, we
That's
just
great.
agreed that okay, we will have 1 hour podcast. It now went till 1 hour 30 minutes, and I'm sure it will be a very eye opener for everyone. I want to jump into one important phase now, is like breaking into the malware research, because that's the most important part we have. So, what is the
Yep.
practical advice on if someone is basically have a step-by-step growth from a rookie's beginner
Mhm.
to a seasonal researcher, crisp, to the point, and in phases? Yeah.
Yeah, so I would give this advice that you start building your skills.
Okay.
Get to the point. I'm not saying get to the point where you're able to at least, don't be a complete sucker at it. Okay.
Hmm.
In short, I would say, like, whatever it, if you are given with the challenge of analyzing any malware, you should reach to a point when you are not a complete sucker at it. Like at least you'll be able to do something with it, right? Not able to do complete the task in terms of figuring out everything about it. But even if they, let's say, even if they give me Stuxnet, I'm gonna be able to do something with it, at least analyze it on the surface level. So reach to that point. And in terms of career, I would say land a job. That's
Hmm.
very get into the industry. Get into the industry. Try to see, because when you're not in the industry, I did not know, the processes and what is actually that can be operationalized, right? Okay, malware analysis, sandboxes, and all that, how they are operationalized and how they are, used in the industry. That only you'll come to know when you are in the industry, right?
True.
So I would say get a job, get in the industry. Nowadays, Gen Z is in this phase that they believe that if you're working as a job, it's almost become kind of a sin. Like, oh, you know what, that's not for me. But I'm of a different opinion. I would say if people have done something for ages and ages, they were not stupid. They have done it for a reason, right?
True. True.
So job is your initial stepping stone.
Hmm.
It's a very good thing. I really enjoyed my career when I was, working for companies. It offers you a safety net as well. You
True.
can, it's not all bad. It's not completely not bad, I would say. So land a job. Uh, I would suggest work for some startups, because at startups you get to explore. you get to dabble with all the you get to learn a lot of, and you get to experiment with a lot of things. And usually those type of companies are in kind of that innovative phase where they can experiment and not have so much downfall, right?
Hmm.
You can't, if you're working for Microsoft, you can't be like, I'm implementing something new in your anti-malware technology, because the cost of something breaking is huge,
True.
right? In terms of startup, you can experiment because they're at the building phase, they got nothing to lose.
Agree.
So I would say work for a startup like I did. I've always worked for, so I've never worked for a big organization. And that has really been helpful. And then gradually, like, understand the business processes, understand the need, understand the requirements as well. If I have to roll back time and I put myself back in the job, I would change only one thing. I would, instead of asking questions how I should do this, I would ask another question. What I can do on top of it? What is the need? What's the need of the organization?
Hmm.
How I can make processes convenient for them, because at the end it is the whole framework of it, right? So as I said, when you are trying to research, when you go about your career, being fascinated and curious, things come to you. Similarly,
Agree.
when you're opening doors in terms of what more I can do in an organization or what more I can do for myself, it opens up doors for innovation in the
True.
same organization. And
True.
trust me, these startups, most of the startups won't prevent you from doing it. If
Agree.
you, but at the same time, you need to know that it should provide value to them. Now, if I go to an MDR company that provides MDR and tell them I'm going to work on cryptography, it's not of no use to them, right? So you have to see this. You have to reach to that point where it's beneficial for you. At the same time, you can provide value to the organization.
Agree.
Yes.
And the reason of I ask you this question is, there's a lot of noise around, the process research and all that.
Yeah.
And I believe in this entire process, you need to have a patience
You need to
because
have patience. Yes.
exactly. And when you're talking about in threat hunting or research and all that, how to deal with this burnout, curiosity, and constant learning. Okay, it is easy to say, it is easy to give gyan, it is easy to give speech, but it's difficult to implement. So how do you see that perspective?
Great, you nailed it. You said it's, in other words, it's only the shoe wearer knows the foot pain. They can
True.
read all the yarn online, but I'm the one who's facing with it. So how do I deal with it? And it's a multifaceted way to deal with it. You need to first understand the basic question why you are having a burnout. Okay,
Hmm.
if burnout is because of, going a little off topic here. Okay. So if the burnout is because of your health issues, then you need to figure out that. If the burnout is because you're working for a shitty organization, then if the burnout is because, and I have seen this as well, I mean, your manager can be, terrible, right? If it's because of the organizational structure.
True.
So first you need to know why the burnout has happened. Or is it because you are not passionate in what you are doing, and then all you need to do is change the line of your work,
True.
right? So figure out this question, why the burnout is there, and then subcategorize it, like how to solve it. And if it's because of your health, you know what to do. If it's because of your manager, you very well know what to do, right? If it's because of lack of skills,
Hmm.
we've been talking about it since past 1.5 hours, right? You know what to do.
True.
So I think anything that, if you're passionate about something, and if something is making you wake up every single day, be it anything, it could be just the learning, it could be just becoming jack of all trades as well. But something that makes you wake up, it's not going to end up in a burnout.
Agree. And
That's it.
and that's why you said about that learning perspective and all that. That's a very important part because if you're not passionate, burnout is if you're getting burnout because of organization, then change the organization.
Yes.
But you
Change.
should not change your skill because of the reason.
But if you're getting the burnout because you're not interested in the knowledge area you're in, then it's better
Hmm.
to change the skill too, honestly.
Excellent. And what is it? So now I'm moving toward more from an enterprise perspective. What is the role of the CERT or threat intel sharing communities, law enforcement in this entire malware research and threat hunting?
Yeah, so I would like in terms of the involvement, it has always been, it has always been very important to have a cert or any compliance body or
Hmm.
a governmental body in order to support cybersecurity researchers like us. And we have faced issues in the past. Nowadays, it's better because we have faced, I mean, again, let's talk about that incident, the Zeus hack incident, because
Hmm.
that would be relatable here. The question you asked is very, very important.
Hmm.
So back then, the hack that I did, it was basically there was a vulnerability in Zeus Banking Trojan itself that would let you, only few people knew about it, it would let you exploit the ZS command and control server and get inside the panel. And that's how we used to kind of get more threat intelligence about, recover credentials for people who have been hacked and
True.
notify banks that these are the credentials that are hacked. You try to ask the users to change it. So that's the time I wished we had more help from the CERT.
Hmm.
Okay. So the guy actually, but then this is the first time I'm revealing it. I'm going to do it on your podcast. The guy who was behind the command and control server panel was actually from India.
Oh,
Yeah.
really?
Yes. Yes. He was from Uttar Pradesh.
Wow.
So
Interesting.
wasn't an Indian national. I guess he was an African national. And what was interesting to me, as I told you, we developed this very advanced spam trapping system that would let us, categorize based on from where the spam is sent and categorize based on the target country as well. So
Hmm.
I see because these banking Trojans back then, they were not interested in attacking countries like India, Brazil, you know, third world countries, which people, first of all, we did not have the access to credit cards and online banking wasn't a thing back then, right?
Okay.
So there's no point of attacking, people from these geographical locations. But interestingly, back then, I saw this campaign, the spam campaign going on, trying to attack Indian customers. And
Okay.
the theme of the spam email was somebody outside of your office was found dead. Try to open this picture, see if you know him. Very enticing, right?
Wow.
Very enticing.
Authoritative,
And it
yeah.
happened to be sent all to Indian addresses, right? And that got me very interesting. I'm like, man, I know this Trojan inside and out. I need to know what the hell is going on, right? So I took it apart. I got the encryption keys. I hacked the server, and I see this guy is running it on a VPS, but
Hmm.
the ping back is coming from India. I'm like, whoa, this is going to be interesting. Somebody, there's some Indian criminal on the scene, and I need to figure out who this is. Oh, long story short, I got in his computer, I took his email, I got his phone number, I got his everything, I got his picture live, and oh my God, that was a thing to see. Like, as soon as he figured out, because back then it used to flash, like the webcam used to flash. As soon as he saw it, he was just pissing his pants off. He had another. He had another instance of Trojan, which was Pandora DDoS botnet Trojan. He even deleted that. Just imagine.
Hmm.
And the next thing I know, I'm revealing this story because I haven't revealed this was just the technical part of it. Back then, I was a little skeptical about it, but yeah, I ended up calling the guy.
Really?
Yes, because I had his phone number, right? I ended up calling. I got all his like VPS accounts and everything. I ended up calling this guy, and the first thing I asked him, and this is very funny. First thing I asked him, why are you running a ZS Trojan? Okay. Now the guy who's kind of blatantly, saying, I don't know anything about it. It's not going to say, no, I'm not running as ZS panel, right? So he tells me that I'm not running as ZS panel. I took your picture and everything else. And back then we tried to contact few people from CERT India.
Hmm.
And I don't know. I mean, but I'm sure, they had some roadblocks, some issues. Maybe the funding wasn't right or, how the government organizations work in India, right?
Oh.
Honestly, I had the phone number, the IP address, everything. All you had to go and take the guy and put him
Yeah,
behind. That's right.
exactly.
But That's how it works, my friend. So yeah, so I would say now going back to the question, I don't want to piss government people off here. That's why I'm being very careful. So back then, yeah, they might have some budget constraints or, some issue. Otherwise, they would have helped certainly. But we were unable to, we tried to collaborate. I hope as of now, the scene is much better. So
Hmm.
to the original question, what is the importance of having cert? There you go. I pointed it out. I don't need to now talk about it because the importance of cert is helps to bridge the gap between law enforcement and private researchers, right? Because at the end of the day, all I can do is give you all the technical information, everything else, right?
Okay.
To execute the plan, what to do after, because you have certain powers that I don't, right? I can't go to hosting server and tell them to bring it all down, or I can't go to ISPs and tell them to give all access to this IP address to me.
True.
That's where, these Western governments are very good. You have seen since past few years, there have been a lot of takedowns, right? Collaborative takedowns from, France, Italy, United States, FBI. And the collaboration is so good that it's private researchers. I have helped in some of the takedowns as well to, develop some. So at the end of the takedown, you have to develop a kill switch. Kill switch is basically that kills all the connections, right? Once you have access to the command and control server and you understand how the command and control server protocol works, then you
Hmm.
essentially become, the law enforcement becomes the master they become the bot masters, right? Then you want to kill all of them. So you develop a technology known as kill switch. I
Yeah.
recently have about it as well. They did in Quake bot, and I described how the kill switch weapon by FBI had some issues with it. They could have done it much better way, right?
True.
There was a mysterious command 6 in it. They could have implemented that and wiped it completely off. But obviously there was burgeoning issues with that. So this is where the collaboration between private researchers and but CERT on its own cannot do, right?
True.
They need people like us. And when we work together, it only enables us to go two step further.
Hmm. And that's why, there's a lot of I believe that one of the most important criteria is you need to have a proper transparency and clear communication, what we're going to share and how we're going to share and all that. What is your view? Like, is it true?
Yes, absolutely. Clear communication. And I think that the gap can be bridged if more people from the CERT, the governmental organizations who are related to cybersecurity,
Hmm.
visit conferences and get in touch with people like us.
And there's a one negative question I want to ask you about when it comes to the reverse engineering. What are the ethics in reverse engineering? What is the meaning is what is the line between the research and exploitation? As you said about that camera and all that, how do you see the maturity of in the future, about the line between the research and exploitation?
Well, this question I would ask if you, I would rather ask you this question and then you would answer your own question. If you are trying to catch a thief on the street and you are
Hmm.
removing his mask, is that considered, that maybe by some objective morality lines, that's maybe by some laws, that's like, oh, in the gray line. But I think that would be considered a meaningful pursuit, right? Right.
True.
So in terms of the line to be drawn, uh, going back to the previous question, that's why we need to involve CERT. I had no reason to go further beyond, right, to get the picture and all, if the CERT was involved. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Then they would do the thing that was there. So I believe sometimes it is necessary. Okay, there have been instances where maybe yeah, someday you come across something that is in the dark web. There are all these child pornography sites and all that.
Hmm.
That time maybe there's a need, right? And
Hmm.
I wouldn't categorize that as in gray line, because gray line would be something that if it affects normal people, if there's some collateral damage and all, right? But when you are chasing a burglar, I think that time you should be the Batman for some time. And ethics, yes, ethics have to be involved. There has to be a line drawn. As I told you, there should be no collateral damage, right?
Hmm.
If something is hosted on somebody's personal network, let's say in case of Zeus peer-to-peer, right? GameOver
Hmm.
Zeus.
Hmm.
I cannot do that. At that time, you cannot just go ahead, because then there would be collateral damage. There would be the personal data of that person involved. Now,
True.
the infrastructure is completely in control or owned by the criminals.
Hmm.
Sure.
And the reason of I ask this question, there's a lot of Gen Zs are basically misusing this opportunity.
Yeah.
And that's the reason, I want to discuss this question. And this is the last question I want to ask around this area about the current threat uh, hunting landscape. What do you think? What are the key trends in threat hunting? And if we talk about today reverse engineering perspective.
Okay, great question. So, as of now, I believe people are there's a perspective shift.
Hmm.
So the perspective shift is like people are more interested in outcome rather than the process.
True.
Uh, So there's been, and again, it kind of subscribes to this belief that humans are intrinsically lazy, and if you are intrinsically lazy, you need something that's gonna do the job for you, right?
True.
So
Agree.
they have built upon systems that let you, in some value of it, do things that would be categorized as, research, right? So there are so many platforms where you can just drop in the IOC, the file, the signature, whatever it may be, and it will help you do the threat hunting process for you, right? So, and I at the same time, I understand the need of it because when you are, let's say, an incident responder company, right? You want things to happen quickly, right?
True.
And you don't want to, you're not interested in again, the design philosophy problem. You are not the user, okay?
Yes.
You are not the user, and you don't get caught up in engineering pond. Don't get caught up in, uh, you know, over making overkilling something, right? Like, oh, if I have a debugger, why would I want to build a debugger first? And you know what I'm saying? If a tool that does something for me tells me whether it's a malware or not, why would I just open it in a hex debugger or hex editor and try to do the maths on, on pen and paper? So I
Hmm.
understand the need of it, and that's the landscape of threat hunting as of now.
Wow.
Threat hunting is more automated than it
Hmm.
was, and I have kind of, I have jumped into that problem now. I know people
Hmm.
don't want to spend so much time, and I am building a product around it,
And it
which is
saved time also.
it saves time, right? So companies need something to be done quickly. So I'm trying to build a product that does threat hunting without actually, hiring a guy like me, right?
Wow.
Doing the, doing the stuff that would be manual and all, right? So yeah, threat hunting is mostly manual, automated,
Hmm.
and slowly it's moving in the phase of AI. Now, you don't need to kind of, like the recent addition in Virus Total, it would tell you like what exactly on the surface level the file is trying to do and
Wow.
kind of do a surface level malware analysis for you.
And what do you think? What is the prediction of future of malware hunting?
Malware hunting is going to be more targeted, more automated. And to answer this question simply, I would say down the line, and that not so distant future from now,
Hmm.
organizations are not interested in the intrinsic working of, a computer malware, I would say. They are just interested in, is this file benign or is this file malicious? That's it. So it's more going towards a zero trust phase, and I don't care, but complete isolation, right? Like, if this is a malicious file, this is a malicious file. I don't need to know what version, who wrote it, what all. Maybe to some organizations that are, but in general, the framework is more about generic generic detection. Like, I just need to know if it's bad, and my defenses are better. Like, I don't care about DDoS. I got Cloudflare. I don't care about the speed of the machines I have. I have enough. I
Hmm.
just want to, I just want to build a big wall, the big fortress, right?
Okay.
So I think that's the shift, because back then it used to be, oh, this is the problem. We have the weakness too. Now we need to build innovative solutions, right? The famous hoax. It's a hoax. It's a famous, a story which wasn't true that I read back then. That, when there was this space war between US and Russia, they went up in there and they wanted to develop
Hmm.
something that's going to write in the space. And US NASA spent 10 million, right, developing a pen because the ink would flow up there because of gravity. And Russia used a pencil. Oh, see
Wow.
this back then it used. I mean, it's not a true story, I'm sure, but back then in cybersecurity that was the case. There was a need for something more innovative and more cost effective. But that's gone now. I'm
Hmm.
sure NASA has 10 million now. They don't care. So yeah,
True.
companies have that bandwidth, they have that computational power, have that thing to kind of eradicate everything. They just want to, they just want to know if it's bad, good or bad. If it's
Bad.
bad, just throw it out. If
It's a
it's
good
good,
accept.
only let in that is good for us. And again, when you have this new thing coming up is zero trust, multi-factor, and bringing in, human element in terms of it, it kind of boils it down eventually there.
Excellent. And now, Rashid, this is a bit off the topic. What Rashid is doing now? What is the project Rashid is dealing with? So can you just share some insight on that area?
Yes, great. So as of now, I mean, we began this conversation by saying that why,
Hmm.
constant change and exploration is very important. I don't
Hmm.
want to have a burnout now. And the type of burnout would be I have worked on one thing for a long time now. Now it's time to step out and do something new. So as of now, I have decided I'm working on my own product. It is a threat. I'm not going to reveal what it is now,
Hmm.
but it is a threat hunting product. I realized uh, again, the shift, as I said, in threat hunting is more about just tell us what it is.
Okay.
Don't tell us how you did it, or we don't need to know the fancy way. We just need to know what it is.
Hmm.
So automation, convenience is what is selling, right? Is
Hmm.
what is the need of an hour. So
Okay.
what I can do, what people like me can do, what if I can package that
Hmm.
in a product like scenario where companies pay 1/10 of it, the price, and they get to have it 24/7 available to them 365 days a year, right? And and they can automate it and schedule the task. That would be
Hmm.
right. And specifically, I'm targeting, incident responders, threat hunting, proactive threat hunting type of, the playground here in terms of penetration test, not penetration but threat hunting or
Hmm.
incident response in terms of on a endpoint is usually like tell us if there's something malicious in it or not. That's the question, right? And you need to answer that, right?
Understood.
Right. Now, if you try to do it manually, it's a very tedious task, right? You need to have 10 different type of tools. People like me who can, who know the intricacies of working of operating systems and to take the dumps and to correlate and to do binary diffing, to do malware analysis, I mean, that's going to take a lot of time. And
Agree.
plus, it's a tedious process. The outcome might not be,
Same. Yeah.
that good. Yeah, right.
Hmm.
So what if you can do that? What if you can do that with greater confidence
Hmm.
in short amount of time? Moreover, instead of me working on one particular incident, I work on to make the tool much
A-
better as I can.
And
I
as holistic.
exactly, and at the same time, I use that knowledge to embed in it, which compounds, right? Like if I know something that only and then I can use it when I'm on the task. Now, if I have knowledge, then I can package it in an automated product. It only builds up the
Hmm.
complexity and the usability of that product. So yeah, something that I'm working on and something that I'm gonna be releasing very soon.
And by when we are expecting this to be launched in the market?
I think in October,
Wow.
I'm expecting to release the first version of it, and I'm this time I'm involving some interesting technology in it, which is going to help not just figure out, you know, what type of threat is living on the endpoint. Oh, it is
Hmm.
also going to figure out similarities, like, oh, it looks similar to that threat, so it might be. So more about, hunting. Sorry to use this word, but I don't have a better word than this, but zero-day malware. I know this
Wow.
word gets thrown around like anything and it doesn't mean anything, but Zero-day malware is something that hasn't been seen but has traces of some old historic malware, which looks like,
Hmm.
yeah.
Because the reason is I ask this question is, to get that insight about what is the future thought process of Rashid. And we definitely looking forward for that.
Yes. I'm sorry to interrupt, Prab. I think this part we need to cut because, uh, yeah, can we?
So, Rashid, that was a great insight you have shared, and I will be the first one who going to review the product, and I will be the first one who going to definitely share this product. But Rashid bhai, guys, sorry, this was a podcast for 1 hour, and we went for 2 hour discussions because there's a lot of technical insight we got from this podcast, and I'm sure those who are watching this podcast, they will also get a great insights. And we okay to disturb Rashid again for the next topic. And if you let me know what are the topic you want to discuss with Rashid for the next podcast, do let me know in the comment box. And I will also share the LinkedIn profile of Rashid. If someone have any kind of a question, they can reach out to Rashid directly for any kind of a queries. Thanks, Rashid Bhai. Thanks for taking out the time for this particular podcast. And we're really grateful for the knowledge, thought, wisdom that you have shared on this podcast.
Thank you so much, Prab. I mean, it was very, very interesting, and I never thought that I would. Even I'm surprised that I had so much to share, and uh, hearing myself out, I'm like, wow, I can speak well, and I
Yeah,
can.
you are. You crack your first job based on that stage presentations only, right? The kind
Yeah.
of a capability you carried. But that was really eye opener for us.
Yeah, so I mean, I would love to do it again sometime with you and, share more insights. Obviously, we have a lot to share. I still have a lot to share. And yeah, anybody wants to, let's ask your audience if they want to hear something from us in terms of discussion. Comment down the comment below or just contact Rob directly. We can talk about it. And yeah, I would love to, do it again in the near future. And absolutely excited to to give you my product for the review and hopefully hear good stuff, a positive review from you. I won't disappoint.
Thank you, Rashid Bhai. Thanks for taking out the time for this podcast. So this is all from our side, and do let us know how do you find this podcast in the comment box. And if you're new to the channel, do subscribe to the channel and click on the bell icon to make sure you should not miss the future videos on a similar topic. Thank you so much. Good day. Bye. Thank you, Rashid Bhai. Thank you so much.